Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. You know how much we love to really dissect interesting pieces of writing? And today, we have something a little different.
Oh.
Yeah, we're looking at, those books you use to learn a new language?
Hmm.
So we found this really interesting excerpt from one called A Journey to the Mountains.
Okay.
And it's designed for, the most basic level of learners, like A1.
I see. Yeah.
But, and here's the thing, even though the language is super simple, there's all this stuff going on under the surface that makes the story actually good.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Like, how do they do that? How do you make a story engaging even when you only have, 50 words to work with?
Right. Well, there are definitely techniques that writers use to make a story compelling, regardless of the language level.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's what we're going to unpack. So, one thing that jumped out at me right away was all those descriptions,
Hmm.
all the sensory details. Like, they talk about fresh, cool air, the clear blue river, the sound of a nearby stream.
Yes, it's like you're right there with them.
Totally. And it got me thinking, why is that so important for someone learning a new language?
Well, think about it. When you're learning a new language, you're basically trying to build a whole new system of understanding in your brain.
Right.
And sensory details, they act like anchors.
Anchors.
Yeah, they connect the words you're learning to actual experiences. So instead of just memorizing a word like river from a list, you're picturing that clear blue river, feeling the cool water, hearing the sound of the current.
Oh, I see. So it's not just a word anymore. It's a whole sensory experience.
Exactly. And that experience, it makes the word more memorable.
That makes a lot of sense. I remember when I was trying to learn Spanish, I struggled so much with vocabulary lists.
Mm.
But if I had encountered those words in a story like this one, with all those vivid descriptions, maybe it would have stuck better.
It's very likely. I mean, think about how kids learn their first language. They don't sit down with flashcards, right?
Yeah.
They learn by experiencing the world around them, by hearing language and context. And this story, even though it's simple, it's trying to create that kind of immersive experience.
Yeah, it's like a mini world built with just a few words.
Exactly. And speaking of using words effectively, I notice how the story uses repetition quite cleverly.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too. Like the words mountains, cabin, trail, village, they pop up again and again.
Right.
Honestly, at first I thought, isn't that a bit, I don't know, repetitive?
Well, repetition can be a double-edged sword. Done poorly, it can feel like you're drilling vocabulary.
They're like flashcards again.
Exactly. But in this story, the repetition is woven into the narrative so naturally.
Yeah.
Each time you encounter a word like cabin, you're not just repeating it, you're building on your understanding of it, seeing it used in different contexts.
Oh, so it's like you're passively expanding your vocabulary without even realizing it.
Yeah, exactly. You're reinforcing both your active and passive vocabulary.
Active and passive, those are good terms.
Yes, and both are crucial for fluency. Your passive vocabulary helps you understand what you read and hear, while your active vocabulary is what you use to speak and write.
Gotcha. So you need both to really master a language. It's like, I don't know, building a house.
Okay.
You need the foundation. That's your passive vocabulary. And then you need the walls and the roof. That's the active part.
That's a great analogy. And just like a house needs more than just walls and a roof, a good story needs more than just vocabulary.
Sure.
It needs, well, heart. And this story, it does a remarkable job of evoking emotions, even with limited language.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You really feel for Sophia, the main character. At the beginning, she's so excited about the trip.
Hmm.
And then as the story progresses, you see her vocabulary subtly shift. She goes from can't wait and so excited to talking about how calm and happy she feels in the mountains.
Exactly. And that shift, it highlights the power of emotion in language learning. When you're emotionally engaged with a story, you're more likely to remember the words and phrases you encounter.
Because you're actually feeling them.
Precisely. And the way the story uses those simple action verbs, packed, drove, walked, reached, dipped, toasted, visited, tried, it's like you're right there with the family, experiencing their journey step by step.
Yeah, it's like you're following their footsteps along the trail.
Exactly. And that clear, simple structure, it makes the story easy to follow, especially for a beginner who might be overwhelmed by more complex grammar.
Right, so it's like a guided tour through the language.
I like that, a guided tour through the mountains and through the language.
Perfect. And while we're on the topic of mountains, I think it's worth pointing out how the story subtly introduces elements of culture.
Ah, yes. It's not just about learning the language, it's about understanding the culture that language is a part of.
Exactly. Like the whole idea of a family taking a trip to the mountains, staying in a cabin, toasting marshmallows, visiting a local village. It all feels very specific.
And that specificity, it's what makes the story come alive. You're not just learning vocabulary, you're getting a glimpse into a different way of life.
Oh, that's so interesting. It's like a little window into a new world.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly motivating for a language learner.
Makes you want to learn more, experience more.
Precisely.
So to recap, we've got sensory details that bring the story to life, repetition that reinforces vocabulary naturally, an emotional arc that keeps us engaged, clear action verbs that move the story forward, simple sentence structure that's easy to follow, and subtle cultural insights that add depth. It's amazing how much they packed into this short excerpt.
It really is a testament to the power of good storytelling. It shows that even with limited language, you can create a story that's engaging, informative, and even inspiring.
And it reminds us that learning a language is about so much more than just memorizing words. It's about connecting with a culture, experiencing new things, and expanding our understanding of the world.
Beautifully said.
Well, I think we've reached the summit of this deep dive. Big thanks as always for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Until next time.